Ladies and gentlemen, how we doing? This is Julien Masson from Adrenaline Combatives, and I'm here with Sifu Patrick Marcil from Canada. How you doing,
How are
man?
you? I'm doing excellent, Julien. Thank you.
Super here as well, man. We managed to make it happen, man. You're one of the lads that I wanted to have on this show for quite some time, and
Oh,
I'm
thank
very
you.
uh, very glad that you took the time to come here, man.
My
So
pleasure.
do you want to give us a little preview about who you are, where you come from,
All right.
what got
Sure.
you into the martial arts and so on?
All right. I'm from a small town close to Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. So I grew up I'm French Canadian. I started martial arts when I was 9 years old. I'm 49 now, so 40 years this year. I started martial arts in on my mother's side of the family. They all like to fight. Rough guys, rednecks a little bit. We like to call that side of the family. So they're a bit rough, physical side, boxing, wrestling, lots of fighting. So I grew up in that environment and always liked it. It was always natural for me. And
Mm.
when I was 9 years old, a very good friend of mine, who is now my brother-in-law, said, my dad's going to teach classes for kids. And I said, hey, I'll be there. And I was the first one in line to sign up, and never stopped looking back from there. So always took it like a fish to water, like they say, and just fell in love with it and kept training my whole life. And this is what I dedicate myself to. Training. I always loved training. Even today, I trained an hour and a half this morning. This is a lifestyle for me. So some people know they coach, but they don't train me. I train every day, physical training, spar, all that kind of stuff. I train fighters. I have a UFC level guys. I have a pro fight team, amateur fight team. I opened my first dojo right out of high school. So I was 18 years old when I opened my school. So it's been, I knew what I wanted to do with my life when I was a teenager. So
Yeah,
that's all I've done. So that's all I've done. So
that's cool, man. You know what? That's very similar. I think that some of the high level martial artists, we all have a very similar story, right? We started from a young age. We loved it, fell in love with it. It's our education. Never look back
yep,
and train every day for all those years.
yep.
So I like that. Same thing with me, by the way. My family, my mother used to compete in French savate.
Cool.
My my father was in the French Special Forces, and he was an instructor in the military and then the police.
Okay.
So yeah, like grand uncle as well was in the French Foreign Legion. Some quite a few men in my family have been either military or martial artists. Grandfather used to be an amateur boxer as well, heavyweight
Cool.
boxer. So yeah, it's in the veins. You know it when
Oh,
it's
yeah,
in the
for sure.
veins. It's the favorite subject of conversation when you're at home, and
That's right.
you never get tired of it.
Nope.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So I tell you what, I got a few questions. It's just a framework. We don't need to.
Okay.
We can go around the questions as well. We can navigate the conversation however we want, right? And there is no taboo on my podcast.
We're
You
good.
can you can say the word shit, fuck. You can do whatever you want. It's
All
cool.
right.
We're good with that, right? Yeah, because some people have got a problem with it. Like I don't. That's it.
Well, we're good.
People don't get offended looking at my podcast. So so you spoke about martial arts and stuff, right?
Mhm.
I'm interested to know what you started with, what you've been training, what really influenced you, what you maybe started training at first and then left it and moved to something else, and what made you gravitate towards left way particularly.
Okay. When I started martial arts, I started basically at first was my father. He became my father-in-law, my Sifu, my instructor, who
Yeah.
became my father-in-law later on. I married his daughter. We've been married for almost 20, together for 25 years, married for 20 years. I have two daughters with Christine, my wife, and we've met in the kids class. She was 5 and I was 9, so we've known each other for a long time. So
Nice.
her dad was my instructor. He passed away 9 years ago in an accident, but he was my instructor for 31 years. And I'm pretty sure he was the first Canadian to bring back the Bruce Lee martial arts to Canada.
Ah,
This is in 19. He started training with one of Bruce Lee's original students in '75.
who
Like
who who was
the
it?
really, it was James DeMiles.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I've
So he
heard. I've
trained with
heard. Yeah.
him for a long time. He was one of his first instructors. He did like 4 years of camps and training. And in
Yeah.
1979, he came to Ottawa and he opened his school. which was and he had Marcil had done boxing when he was like 9 years old, and he was a black belt in karate, which was pretty much the only things that were around Ottawa, Canada at that time, right in the early 70s.
Which style of karate was it, if you don't mind me asking?
I think it's the Shitoryu karate.
Shitoryu. Okay.
Yeah, so he had boxing and Shitoryu karate, which was pretty much back then in the late 60s, early 70s here in Canada. There wasn't much of anything else, right? So that's what he got a black belt in. So he liked martial arts, and he did boxing, and then he says, I want to do martial arts. So he did his black belt in karate. Then he saw an ad in a black belt magazine that some of Bruce Lee's original students were going to do seminars and so forth. So he went to meet them. He became an instructor. So in 1979, he opened his first school here in Ottawa. And he was one of the first guys. And he was a big advocate right off the bat from, he always said there was a lot of good stuff in boxing. And there was some good stuff in karate, from the kicks and he liked the discipline and the order of the traditional martial arts. And he was a big guy from the Bruce Lee stuff where use what works, don't let go that what doesn't work. A lot of stuff on individualism, like find what works for you. So I grew up with that mentality, and that was encouraged in us, in me and my brother-in-laws. I have 3 brother-in-laws, which were, of course, his sons, and we all trained together. And he always encouraged that, to find what works. Everything that I learned from as my base, I would say the biggest thing was not to be technique, like stuck up in moves. We were a lot more concerned with skills, being fast, being strong, flexible.
Attributes,
tough. This was pushed a lot more than move A, move B, move C. For moves, my instructor was very, I would say, old school combative guy for like a Jeet Kune Do guy, which you have the finger jab, closing the gap, the blast, kicks in the groin, side kicks like in Savate, right? That low side kick and that oblique kick, which comes from Savate. And to use whatever works, you use. And he always had no punching in the groin, the headbutts. That's how we trained. And he always really amplified that philosophy that Bruce Lee had, to use whatever works and to continue training. So that's pretty much my background since I'm a kid.
I kind of guessed that when I've watched your videos, because I watched quite a few of your things, especially in the last 2-3 years. And when I looked at it, I was like, I can see some of this, I can see some of that, but I could definitely guess that there was the JKD philosophy was grasped completely, because you were navigating from one style to the next in a fluid manner, and that's what I like. And like I said to you, I've seen the rapid eye blades. So like, I'm big on attacking the eyes. I love I love attacking the eyes, the eye jab.
It's a good spot. It's a good spot. There's a reason why they don't allow it in competition, right? If it wouldn't work, they would allow it.
And anyone that says that shit doesn't work, should watch some of the MMA guys sometimes doing it, not even in purpose, and the referee has to stop the fight, right?
For sure, that's guaranteed.
So, it doesn't matter how strong, how muscly you are, how fast you are. You'll never be able to train that thing here. So this is great target. Always, that's what Bruce Lee used to say: the eyes, throat, groin, knees, and ankles. This is what you want to aim for to finish the fight. So that is brilliant stuff. I knew you was gonna say something like that, but I wanted to hear it from you, man. So now, how did you gravitate towards Lethway?
All right. I've always been encouraged to read a lot, right? That's something my instructor also pushed, reading. And I always enjoyed reading about martial arts. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to read about all these martial arts like Bando and all this stuff from Burma before it was called Myanmar. And they had, they fought without gloves. They fought in sand pits. They had headbutts, all that stuff. So I always really enjoyed reading and learning about different styles and cultures and all that works. So I enjoy that. And then we always had headbutts in our system from, when we did sticky hands like Chisa, we incorporated headbutts, Hubad, Fansa rotation, everything we did, we always had headbutts. We always trained without gloves. That came from my Sifu when he was doing karate. There was no gloves. And he liked the self-defense aspect of you have to be able to punch your wrist, your form, your fist without breaking. So we did a lot of that.
This is going to be, we will dive into that a bit later. But go on.
Did that. So I liked those aspects. And then I had, of course, a lot of students fighting in kickboxing, K1 that we have here, amateur. And then I had Dave Leduc, who was a young student of mine. He was a teenager. And Dave was always like enjoyed stuff that was a little bit like me, like intense. So
Yeah.
and he said, "Oh, I'd like to do." He saw a little thing that I was watching, a little video. And he says, "What's that?" I said, "That's Letway. They're doing, I think we're watching actually Tun Tun Min, who was a champion that Dave
Yeah.
actually ended up fighting a couple of times, right?" So we watched him, and then he said, "Oh, that's crazy." I said, "Yeah, they have no gloves. You can headbutt, and sometimes depending on their organization, they don't even count the score, right? You have to finish the guy twice to win." So I said, "That's very intense. It's very hardcore." And he said, "I'd like to do that." Then I said, let's train for this. Let's take our time. Let's not, I think he was 18 years old when he told me this. He had been training like maybe a year and a half. I said, let's prepare for this. And then we always incorporated it in our training. We started doing a lot of stuff that I used to do when I was a kid, punching the pads with no gloves, entering combinations with punching, with headbutts, back to punching, and just conditioning the body for that kind of stuff. And then Dave ended up doing a lot of stuff, right? Winning the scholarship for Tiger Muay Thai, doing prison fight, and then ended up being asked to fight in Letway. So it kind of came in by itself, and then the rest is history. Having Dave fighting at the highest level of that particular combat sport made me like have to train him to fight guys that have been doing this all their life, right? And that they fight, they're very hungry, right? Like a guy like Tun Tun Min, he takes care of his whole village with his winning. So this guy is motivated to win. He's not fighting to have a Facebook entourage and to get girls. He's fighting with a big purpose. So to fight guys like that are third generation, we found out his grandfather was a champion in that way, his dad. You have to be ready. So I told him all that stuff, the psychological stuff, the mental training. So that came about having to train Dave, and another student that I helped, Dan Larivière. He fought in the UK, actually, bare knuckle Muay Thai and a couple of Letway fights, and I helped train him as well. So we just developed it from there, right? It just came from what we naturally did for self-defense.
Yeah.
And combat sports, we just applied it to Letway. It just came very naturally from what I had learned from my Sifu when I was a kid.
Well, that's a really cool story, man. I've always asked myself. I was gonna ask you eventually about Dave Leduc and how you guys met and stuff. But that's really cool, and I like the fact that you started the training with the street mentality of ending a fight, and kind of translated it to the sportive platform, right?
Yeah.
Because what I said to you, this is what I'm trying to do with my craft, with my work, right? Is to take the sportive platform and see what I can take from it for the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's some stuff that I will eliminate because there's some stuff that is safe to do on a mat that is not safe to do on a concrete floor, for example. And of course, you said it, and I was going to speak about this after, but we're going to speak about it now because I'm coming to it now, right?
Okay.
Punching bare knuckle, right? So, I mean, I like to train all sorts of things, and generally, when it comes to street fighting, I like to teach open-handed strikes because it's safer for a lot of people. You can strike really hard with palm strike without really risking hurting your knuckles. But having said that, for people like us that have been boxing for years, it comes naturally to just throw the punches. So I paid a big interest in bare knuckle boxing because I think that these guys are amazing, right?
For sure.
I never did any bare knuckle. I'm contemplating the idea. I'm getting a bit older now, but I've done a bit of Muay Thai, I've done a bit of MMA here and there, a bit of boxing. And I realized that the punching is different. When you have bins and you have gloves, you can allow yourself a bit more than you can if you are bare knuckle. So the thing is that with bare knuckle, you really got to know how to turn your wrist, how to position your hand, how the power line and the alignment and what you target. Everything needs to be on point. Otherwise, you end up hurting, your wrist, your hand.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a bit about this? I know that the punches, like the hooks, are changed, right? You point with the knuckle that way. How do you think that would translate to street fighting, to punching somebody really bare knuckle in a street situation without hurting your hand? How viable is that?
I think it's very viable, and it's something you have to train though. Like you can't. This
Yeah,
is not something that's going to take a week, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if you've seen like I do a lot of videos. I show like when I'm punching the Makiwara board
yeah,
at the train, like I'm smashing it like full blast. I've had a lot of people comment on that one, like holy crap, like I'm really going full blast. I do punching bag with no gloves. Me and Dave used to spar with just hand wraps and hit on the arms, the chest, the top of the head, just to get the feel, and also like to align everything, wrist, form, shoulder, like the structure of your body, be able
yeah,
to take the impact, close your fist properly, right? And aiming, I can't hit your hip, I can't hit the top of your head. I have to hit, the liver, the sternum, the nose, the temple, the jaw. You have to be more precise.
yeah,
And of course, every shot is going to hurt. It's going to cut, a jab, a straight punch, anything. So I think you have to train that over time. Like for myself, I've been training since I'm a kid, bare knuckle, bag, mitts, all that stuff. Like I've been in fights I've been a bouncer in a bar for like 5 years. I worked like a nightclub. I've been in street fights. I've never hurt my hands, right? Like and I hit full blast. But you have to hit with precision. You have to hit with power, the right alignment. You have to train this. This is something that you have to do over time. It's not something that you
yeah,
can. And I do this with some of my MMA fighters. We have like really hard focus mitts that we
yeah.
had an old supplier do for us. We're in a long time ago. And when they do the bare knuckle, they have a little smirk. Where, they're like they tell me, man, my knuckles are hurting, my wrists are hurting. They cannot transfer all their power into their punches
Yeah,
because they're going to hurt their hand. So, and then when I do it with them, they're okay. See, that's how I want you to hit. To hit like you're trying to take the guy's head off with no hesitation. So this, I do believe there's no quick fix for it. You do have to train a certain amount of time and put energy. The same thing with your shins, right? Somebody who does Muay Thai or kickboxing, when they kick with no shin pad on the bag or another person's leg, they're like, holy moly, yeah, it does hurt. You have to condition your shins,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
you can't hit bone on bone, and so there's the same thing with your knuckles, but it changes the game completely. The biggest one I found is defense, right? The
yeah.
covering up, big gloves, and I have big gloves. It's harder to hit, but with bare knuckle, it goes through the hands,
It
around
goes
the
through the
ear.
hands,
It's
right? Exactly.
it's very you have to have better parries, better footwork. You have to move, and you see like every shot hits. So precision, the defense changes, but definitely something that you have to do. And the palms is a great thing too. We've seen that with guys like Boss Rutan and Pancrase
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
smash
Of course.
people with palms. So it's to say that it doesn't hurt with the palm. It works well, but I do agree with you that like for me, if I get in an intense state, my fists are going to close right away. It's the first thing I'm going to think of
Yeah,
is like jackhammer time with the punches and let's go,
yeah.
and the rest
Well,
just flows from there. Yeah.
you see what you just said now, and for a while, I've been training a lot of open-handed strike for years. I mean, I went from style to style. I mean, I used to train with Tommy Carruthers in
Okay.
Scotland, which was my JKD background, and then I became an instructor under Lee Morrison from
Okay.
Urban Combatives. And
Yeah, I remember seeing old ads in the Black Belt magazine about that guy. I remember
yeah,
that.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Lee's awesome. Lee's one of the top guys to learn how to fight. Like, and so we used to do a lot of palm striking, like chin jabs and palm strikes and
Yeah.
things like that. And we, in UC, it's just the way that we learn. We got to put the aggression in there, and we hit things full on from day
Yeah.
one, right? And so I thought that drilling this and drilling that, that when I get in a fight, my palms would come out. And more than once, because I've been doing the doors for more than 15 years, on and off 15 years, started in Eastern Europe, in Lithuania, and then I moved to the UK, Glasgow, London, Manchester. And I realized when I feel threatened, my hands are coming up and my fists
Yeah.
are forming fists. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I've been boxing for years, and that's what comes out for me. And
Mhm.
that's where I started to look at bare knuckle boxing, because I said to myself, wait a second, these guys are throwing punches full on, and I mean full on, but what if they end up hitting a forehead or something like that? Because it happened to me, right? It's you
Yeah.
can see from there. Big
Mhm.
scar here, metacarpal
Yeah.
bone just broke. So after that, I started to go, do I really want to do that, right?
Yeah.
That's when I started to work a lot of empty hand, a lot of open hand stuff. But then I said to myself, right, you got to find a way. If that's what comes out, you have to learn to use these, right?
Yeah.
So like the conditioning, makiwara type of thing is useful. We got some pads. When I used to train with Tommy Crothers, it was the same thing. We were hitting pads bare hands,
Yeah.
and the pads were very, very thin pads, right? And smaller
Yeah.
as well, like
Yeah.
smaller pads. So it was more for accuracy and really kind of throwing the shot in, and you could feel it. It was different. It was different than like a big pad with a lot of padding in there.
Yeah.
That when
Exactly.
you hit it with the boxing gloves, it make a big slapping sound.
Yeah.
It's different. It's something completely different. So yeah, I think like learning to fight without gloves, very important. The body mechanics of each punches
Yeah.
do change. You got to think now as well, in terms of the body mechanics and the depth, because you know about, like, in order to knock somebody out, you need the depth. You need to think
Yeah.
about
Exactly.
my footwork needs to go forward enough so that I can at least go 10 inches through the target to have
Exactly.
that knockout, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the same when you're bare knuckle, or do you have a bit of hesitation or go, fuck, do I really want to hit that guy? Do you know what I mean?
I think hesitation is the worst thing for fighting.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
honestly, zero hesitation when you
yeah,
fight.
yeah,
Like I've never had hesitation. Like I said, I've been doing it since I'm a kid. So for me, I find, and if somebody wants to see some of my videos, like I'm punching a 200-pound bag like full blast, the
yeah,
wrecking ball, the makiwara. I don't hesitate as far as punching with my hands. Like, of course, would I punch a guy on top of the head? No, I think it's important that you stay focused. Intensity and ferocity is very important, but that mental state of focus where, okay, if he ducks down, then we have the uppercuts, elbows. I'm going to
yeah,
choke him, throw a knee. You don't punch a guy like 10 times on the back of the head and break your hand.
yeah,
So
yeah,
punching the nose, the temple, the jaw, sternum, when to use your punches, set up your elbows, your headbutts, your knees. Like we don't headbutt like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon, right?
yeah, yeah,
Forehead to forehead. Hardest to weakest is always the
yeah,
best. The best of mechanics and the best result. So you can't hesitate, I find, in fight, whether you're doing Muay Thai, MMA, street fight, even worse, right? Because it can get you killed. And if you hesitate all the time, you have that second guess. So you have to go full speed, full power, no hesitation. And it's just something that you have to drill, you have to train. And
yeah.
of course, if you're defending yourself for your life, well, if I would happen to break my knuckle or break my hand and I knock the guy flat out, well, so be it. It's going to be part of it's going to be part of it, right? So
Yeah. No,
people
no.
who think it's going to be in a fight and be all clean, my shirt won't be ripped, and my hair is going to be nice. I'm not going to get any cuts, any bruises, because I'm a black belt or I've been training for 40 years.
It's
I can't
cinema,
be hit, and that's all stuff. Is for me, it's fantasy. So it's
of course.
even the one thing you can learn from fighting MMA. Even the guys that win, they're hurt after. Your shin's all
Yeah.
busted up, your hands hurt, your jaw hurts a little bit. Like it's not fantasy land. It's real life.
People don't tend to advertise these aspects. You see MMA fighters going on the fight, all strong, solid, no complaint, no nothing. You don't see them unless you're a close friend. I mean, I have a lot of my close friends are high level competitors, either in MMA or Thai boxing, and I see the pictures that they send only to friends
Yeah.
with the split chin
Oh
and
yeah,
the split fucking sitting on the table at the end of the
yeah,
fight. Getting
exactly.
that attention from
Yeah,
the and that's something that's not really being shared, because we live in this society where men don't cry and just be strong and
yeah.
fucking get on with it. And so yeah, but you're very right, man. So let's speak about something very important, something that not everybody speaks about, but I think that is one of the most important subject when it comes to combat, and that is mental, psychological, and emotional preparation. How do
Yeah.
you go about that? Do you have, like, the way that we do, we got lectures, right? So
Mhm.
we got like a theoretical aspect of it where we take people through a lecture talking about mindset, about how to develop like controlled unleashed aggression, on call,
Mhm.
on switch clinical, cold clinical aggression that you can
Yeah.
switch on and switch off on demand, and speak about state management of emotional state, your pain, your fear, your fatigue, your adrenaline, your disorientation, or just kind of let
Yeah.
go of all this shit, and state access. learning to access the most resourceful state for combat. So switch on the aggression when needed, in-fight observation, because when you go tunnel vision, you still need to look what's happening around you, because you're vulnerable to flank attacks and things like that. So that's a lecture, and then we put it into drills like impact inoculation drills. So we got drills where you got to stay in the middle for 10 seconds, and you go 4 of the biggest guys with big boxing gloves just trying to take your head off. And you just gotta stay there for a good 10 seconds, times 3, and kind of work on your mindset when you're inside, instead of being the victim or being, oh fuck, you need to be like, motherfucker, when it's my turn, wait until it's my turn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you go about teaching that mindset to your fighters? Because left way is one of the most fucking brutal thing out there.
Yeah,
You
for
gotta
sure.
be prepared for that.
You can't be, you have to be conditioned physically first, because you're going to get broken, right? Or like your hands are going to break, right?
Yeah.
So your hands going to break. You have to be ready to get cut and struck. And same thing for Thai boxing, bare knuckle boxing, any kind of combat sport. Even, some people, you go grab, put your gi on and go with an Olympic level judo guy and tell me if you like being slammed on the floor like that, like hard, how your back feels, your neck feels, your shoulder feels, your ankle feels. Just that you have to be conditioned, right? So people don't realize how hard it is to get slammed on the floor and thrown. And so all these things, you have to be conditioned your mind. We do a lot of stuff, like you said, lectures. We talk about how some people cannot communicate other than violence, right? You could talk to them all night. It won't matter. There might be intoxicated on drugs, in a specific state of mind where, what we've all learned in school, look the other way, walk away, talk you out of it. That
Give
will
the
work
other
for,
cheek.
right? That'll work for maybe 9 out of 10, but there's always that one crazy dude that, what do you want me to tell him? This, I'm in a bad spot. I can't walk away. It's a bad situation. Your family's there. Your kids are there. There's certain situations you can't walk out of. So we talk about that kind of stuff, like asocial behavior that people are not. They're not supposed to. They're not right in the head, and they're not right mentally. It might be just that day, right? He went home and I don't know, he caught his wife with somebody, and then he drives in his car. This guy's normally okay, but right now he's not. So if you cut him off, well, you're in a wrong spot, wrong time. So that kind of stuff, right? And that moment, we talk a lot about the mind structure. You talk about the monster. The monster inside of you. So that's how we would call it. He always said, you have to be able to let your personal monster emerge, right? So not to put it down, but be able to, when you're doing punching bag, when you're doing clinch work, when you're doing anything with contact, even when you're doing push-ups and it's hard, that those last 3, think of that, right? I can't physically do them anymore, but I'm going to use that little thing inside me to do 3 more. And then when I train that all the time, when I'm doing physical work, sparring, anything with contact, you have to train that to be able to trigger that, like you talked about, like a switch. I got to be able to turn that on in a fraction of a second and become like that monster. I like to be like very cold. You have to be cold, calculated, and at that moment for that kind of job. My instructor had all these funny stories in French. He would say, if you go to ask a girl out to dance, you have a certain way, right? There's words you use. There's a certain way. He would always do this joke when he had new people. He said, "Hey, you want to dance?" He would say that don't work, right? That's a wrong approach. But he says if you go in a fight, hi, would you be willing to? That makes no sense, right? So you have to have the right mentality, emotional, mind connection for the job. What's going on here, right? So he always had that he would talk about the monster. And everybody's different, right? Some people will be very intense if we talk about their kids. Some people will be their car. It'll be their bike, their clothes. It all depends. So you have to find what makes you, what's dear to you that will make you become like Mama Bear, even if you're Papa or whatever it is. That kind of violent situation, right? I tell my students that sometimes there's weight classes in fighting absolutely needed. But if somebody breaks into your house in the middle of the night and you have your kids and your wife, are you going to ask the guy when you get off bed, hey, are you in my weight class? What belt are you? Oh, you're too tall for me. I said, you're not going to do that, right? You're just going to go. You have to be able to do that all the time, to be able to turn that animal side on and to be able to transfer that in techniques, of course, and not just swing and like you don't know what you're doing. You have to be able to transfer and kind of focus, channel that energy into precision strikes, good attacks, be able to grapple, use weapons, all that stuff. So without losing your marbles and not knowing what you're doing, you have to have that kind of do or die intensity. So that's kind of the stuff we talked about. Also watch videos. Sometimes I make jokes. What about if this big fucker is coming at you? You better have a good solid punch there. Your little flimsy back fist is not going to stop this dude here. You know, like if a grizzly's coming at me in the forest, I don't want a pellet gun. You know, I want a full auto shotgun with a lot of ammo.
Buckshot
Stuff like that in class, and I give ideas like, what would you do if this dude's coming at you? You know, I don't know. Well, you better know, because there's guys like that, you know, out of prison every day, and so that kind of stuff. So we try to give them examples.
Do you know what? It's funny because a lot of the things that you're saying, it goes exactly in line with how the mentality in combatives, right? Saying when I was growing up, when I was queuing at I don't know, have you got Greg's in Canada? It's like a place where you buy sandwiches and coffee in the morning. Greg's, no?
Yeah, kind of stuff. Yeah, we have like Tim Hortons and stuff like that. Yeah.
So when I was going and queuing at Greg's, and I got people in front of me, people at the back, on the left, and I'm just always imagining how I'm going to grab that guy by the head, just put the back of his knee and take him down and stomp him and just fucking backfist that guy, you know, sidekick that other guy. I know it's a bit fucking mad, but it's just, you know, it's just keeps going in there. And every time when you see a big guy, always asking yourself, can I take that guy? You know, can I take him on? Yeah. And do you know what? So in terms of the analogy of what I use when I try to get people to access this antisocial animal that we have inside, either I use the term the dragon, right? The dragon on the leash. You got the dragon on the leash, and you kind of let go of the leash a little bit and let the dragon do its job, and then you kind of bring him back. Or I like to use the analogy of the convict, right? The convict, the serial killer that's inside the jail cell, right? And you have the key, and you got a pact with that psychopath, right? That psychopath has got the right to get out and do the business when it's needed. But once he's gone, he's coming back to that cell and he's getting locked up again.
Exactly.
So it's I like having different analogy when it comes to accessing that level of aggression that's going to totally eclipse what you're being faced with. And you know, if you are faced with deadly force, that a lot of people say, oh, you know, because they look at some of the stuff that I do and they're like, nah, you know, you're going to get people jailed, you're going to go to jail if you do that. But they don't understand the level of aggression that is required to deal with somebody that's trying to kill you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And even on the moral, ethical, and legal perspective, right? I know that the law is fucking stupid when it comes to self-defense, but any country will say that if somebody's trying to kill you, you got the right to defend yourself, right? And
for sure.
That could go up to a level which is deadly force. And I always say to people, if somebody is offering you deadly force, the best way for you to get out of it is to use deadly force.
Yeah, you have to match the aggression that's coming at you, right? So it has to at least.
Even maybe slightly higher. You have to find something that's going to eclipse what you're being faced with. So, it's. Are you familiar with Richard Dimitri?
Yes, I've heard of him. Yeah,
Richard Dimitri is a good guy. We get along really well as well, me and him. And he's got a lot of really good things to say about the psychology of violence and, you know, how to recognize behavioral red flags and the different personality disorders and how to de-escalate and all that stuff. Very, very knowledgeable guy. If you never spoke with him, I can introduce you guys, mate. Very, very good guy to know and to learn from. So let's crack on to the next question. That's going to be quite easy, right? But people want to know still, what is the difference between lethwei and Thai boxing, except for the fact that there is no gloves and you can use headbutts? Because I know that Dave Leduc and you would get a bit pissed off if somebody would go, oh, lethwei is just Muay Thai without the gloves and you can headbutt, right? So go on. What would you say to that?
Really, it's a good way to explain to somebody who doesn't know, right? So it's Muay Thai is well known now. Now they've done a great job of making that art well known. So not everybody knows about it, but general people, you tell them, wait, oh yeah, the elbows, knees from Thailand, and intense. And of course, it's a great martial art. It's proven itself multiple times. It's
Yeah.
I would say the biggest difference, one, is always like every culture has a different thing. So in Letway, they have their cultural things that they do differently. They in Muay Thai they have their Ramwe at the beginning, the way they do their things. In Letway they have the Lekamun, which is like this is something you do to challenge your opponent respectfully. To okay, let's go, man. Like we're two warriors. Let's fight hard. They have cultural differences, of course, from country to country. The biggest things technically that are in Letway is you have no gloves at all.
Yeah.
Headbutts are allowed. There's no scoring system in traditional Letway. There is a new, more modern version where they use a scoring system, of course.
Yeah.
But at traditional Letway, there's no winner. There's no winners if you don't finish the guy off. So you can get knocked out 4 or 5 times and be half dead if you're still standing. Well, it was a dominant draw. So everybody knows that I beat the crap out of you, but I didn't finish you off. So it's a dominant draw or a draw. Throws are allowed a little bit more. Like in Muay Thai, you can throw when you're in the clinch, but in Letway, you could do I could grab you by the waist and suplex you on your head. I can do a judo throw. I can do trips and sweeps. All those things are allowed as long as I don't put my knee down, right? I can't do like a penetration step to grab your legs, but I can grab you by the waist and throw you, body slam you, throw you. They don't, if you've seen Letway matches, the traditional ones, guys getting hit the back of the head, the spine, the kidneys, they're in the ropes.
Yeah.
I remembered telling Dave at the beginning, like they're very loose with the rules. So really defend yourself at all times. And traditionally, they have the 2 knockout rule. So I can knock you completely out cold. You have 3 minutes to come back if you wish. And then to win, I have to knock you the fuck out again. So this is hard. I have to knock you out twice. And it's a bit crazy for the guys that actually take those, 3 minutes, no way you come back from being knocked out completely. Or you can take one time out in the fight. So if you get a really big cut or you get hurt, you can take one time out for 3 minutes to rest and then come back. So technically wise, that's what you're looking at without going into like the cultural thing. And for me, I respect all cultures and I love all the martial arts and fighting. So for me, what I liked about it is how raw it was, how close to as far as a striking art with throws and hitting as close as you can get. And the physicality of it, you have to be very conditioned. You have to be very tough. You have to fight smart as well because you have no gloves and there's no scoring. So you have to fight they really push aggression. So those are the things that for me, as my personality and my background, that I really enjoyed from Letway.
Yeah.
But Dave, his last fight was in Kun Khmer, which is a Cambodian martial art, which is pretty much identical to Muay Thai. They fought with the hold hemp wraps, which was very, very cool as well against Prom Sam Nang, like the number 1 guy. So it was awesome to do that as well. So it's just very cool right now. Letway, it's hard with the military takeover in Myanmar. A lot of the guys have gone to 1FC to fight in the Super Series. So it's unfortunately Letway's lost some steam because of the situation in Myanmar and all that stuff. So hopefully we can restart something in the future, and continue to progress that art and to continue this very, very old, military martial art that to me I find very cool.
I think this is amazing, man. The first time I looked at Letway, it was Lee Morrison that actually kind of, because Lee's like that. He's every time he sees something, he's like, fucking hell, look at that, that's nice. Let's train that. Let's do something with this. And the first time I looked at it, and that was a good 5-6 years ago, something like that. And that's when I started to look at Dave Leduc, and that's how I found you as well. And I said to myself, for me, because I've been doing Thai boxing for years, right? For me, what's really, really interesting is, okay, we always speak about the clinch game. And the clinch game is a transition from standing to throwing and to wrestling. I mean, if we speak about in my method, adrenaline combatives, there's a trinity, right? And the first angle is a solid striking background. So learn to develop concussive stopping power with your dominant and non-dominant hand. That means also learning to strike from a restricted position inside the car, from a seated position, and learn to generate like knockout power from a very, very short amount of space, right?
Yeah.
So this takes a lot of practice, but it's getting there with the time and the practice. Then the second angle of the Trinity would be a solid wrestling background, learning how to throw, how to sweep, how to trip, how it feels like to be slammed, to have somebody heavier than you just knocking the wind out of you, how it feels like to get choked, to get in a submission, learning how to get back on your feet, all that stuff, right? And then the third angle would be learning to use weapons, right? Any weapons, from firearms to bladed, short blade, to impact weapons, to shields, pretty much everything. But going back to the clinch, right? The clinch, which is very often the transition from the striking and the throwing, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think that the clinch is very, very important and neglected by a lot of people, right? A lot of people that claim to be training self-defense don't spend time in the clinch, right? Not near enough. Right? And so when you look at the Thai clinch game, which is an amazing game, the Thai clinch game is amazing, right? And now when you look at Lethway, it's like the Thai clinch game just dissolves completely, because as soon as you can throw headbutts, the dynamic of the clinch completely changes, right? Now you got to control the head. You got to, instead of just controlling the arms to avoid getting elbowed, you got to control the head as well. You got to watch the knees as well. It becomes really, really fucking versatile. So what would you say when it comes to the clinch game? How does it change? How much does it change? And how could you transition, if you're used to the traditional Thai boxing clinch? How could you transition from that to the Lethway clinch game?
One of the biggest advantages that I found with the headbutts is that is going to add continuity to the attacks, right? If we get into the clinch and somebody tries to tie you up and then just use knees to score points, well, that tying him up puts you in position to headbutt, right? Then I'll be able to headbutt you on the nose, the face, and then that headbutt, of course, it can knock you out, which we've seen many times, like in Lethway fighters knocking out guys. Or the other thing is going to do is that continuity, instead of stalling where I'm stuck and, I knee you a little bit, you knee me, then we throw. I got those split seconds to smash my head, and that creates space. Then my uppercut, my cross, my elbow continues, where if I wouldn't have the headbutt, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to follow up with those added strikes. When you do try to connect, when you're coming in, like when we talk about, sense of touch and feeling, when he's coming in, where before we really connect, there's opportunities for a headbutt there, and a bit like in Jiu-Jitsu, like an interception, right? I'm going to intercept you from really grabbing onto me properly with my head, like we use in MMA, like head pressure, but then I'm able to actually smash and hit. So I can use that to stop you from connecting close to me. And then, of course, follow-up attacks should always be, like I always teach, the headbutt always follows up with something. The head, whether even if I'm knocking him out, well, hit him on the way down, right? So always more than not enough. So the biggest thing for me is that there's going to be a lot less opportunities to stall or control your opponent. And I can use my head to intercept when the person is coming in. And a lot of blind spots, like you really don't see them if you're used to throwing headbutts, those little tricks where you're going to go at an angle, or you're going to put your hand and then replace your hand with your head. All these little things, when you're not used to it, you can be caught by surprise. So again, is the element of where you're not used to, oh shit, I forgot about the head and I didn't see the head coming. Or I was expecting us to, we're taking a break here. I give him a couple of knees and we get split. And just the follow-up attacks after you've been stunned or hurt with the headbutt, or to finish up with the headbutt. The Burmese guys like to punch and then finish up like with a kind of a running headbutt at the end of a 4 straight kind of thing. So it's very, very different.
So you see that, like the running headbutt at the end, right? It's really something you got to time it right, and you got to put it out there when you know that you already got the guy with a few shots and he's in the gas, because that's not something you want to do on an entry. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Because that's a good way to lose your teeth or getting knocked out, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the headbutt, I'll send you something later on. I made during the lockdown, I made like a tutorial on the headbutt, and I'd like your opinion on it.
Sure.
So I'll send it to you later on. The thing, when it comes to headbutt, one thing that you said, right, which is the space there is no space because we're in the clinch, right? And all of a sudden, let's say, I mean, we use the bite generally from here, right?
Mhm.
The bite
Yeah.
here to create the space to headbutt an elbow from
Yeah.
there. And I find it really interesting the way that you can use the headbutt as, use the crown of your head on the temple to apply pressure, like when you
Yeah.
wrestle or on the jaw. It's horrible. I love to do it because
Yeah.
it's fucking horrible when you do it. And you just basically grab the guy and apply pressure with your head.
Mhm.
And let's say now if you let him go because he doesn't want to be there, you let him go, you build the space, and boom, now you can
Exactly.
come back.
Yeah.
That is smart. That is really smart. And so little question. When it comes to headbutts, right? The first thing is, there is short and compact headbutts, and then there's a bit longer headbutts,
Yeah.
right? I think that the short ones are safer, especially if you're close, they're just that little boom. And
Yeah.
this is safer than really the one that just go and dive with it, right? The diving one is really, you need to time it well and you need to know when to throw it, right?
Guaranteed.
What do you aim? What do you aim for? Temple, jawline?
For me, like I kind of I separated the headbutts in little just techniques as well. Like a ramming headbutt is when you're, let's say I throw a 1-2, then I just finish up. Well, like in boxing, how many times do guys clash their heads? In MMA, we've seen it too. So instead of holding back my my momentum, I just keep going, right? So I say a 1-2 or a straight blast, and then I just naturally finish up like a boom, right on the nose, right on the jaw, and then can follow up with hooks or connect, or you're in the clinch, and then I created that space, and then so it's just a ramming headbutt, like a jab cross, top of my head, right on the nose, eye socket, jaw, cheekbone, and then to follow up. Then there's like I call it a blind side elbow, a headbutt. You're on the side, and instead of staying straight, you just move to the side of the shoulder and follow the line, and that hits on the temple or on the jaw. The Burmese do that one a lot. Tun Tun Min. I remember me and Dave, we really worked on blocking that because he does that to everybody. They go in the clinch, he moves a little bit, like a couple of steps to the side, your side by side, and then bam, he just bangs you from the side, and he drops a lot of people with that. And the Burmese like that one. It's very sneaky, but you don't see it coming. That's thing on a blind side elbow. And the other one's like the uppercut, right? If I'm throwing body shots, well, when I come up, I just come up right up, like with everything I got with my legs, and just try to bash the top of my head right under your face. So that kind of stuff, and to follow up like that, ducking down, pulling the guy into a headbutt, the pressure, and then you release and hit. So all these kind of headbutts are important. But I think when you're flurrying or hitting, then the headbutt's there. When you clinch, framing, and then pulling him in, and then that sneaky one from the side is very effective on the side of the face, which I found that that's hard to see. So, and I think you need to have two types of headbutts as well. From boxing style, where I'm just punching, and then the headbutt is just part of it. I'm not grabbing onto you. I'm not connecting. I'm not doing any kind of trap or clinch. I'm just punching, and then boom, the headbutt comes right in like a 1-2-3. But and then the other one is we're connected and we're wrestling, and then we're fighting for position, just like on the ground, right? I'm in side control. You're holding me down. I frame. Then I can use my headbutt if the opportunity is there. They took the headbutts out because of Mark Coleman, right? He was doing too much of a good job busting up people, and all that blood back then, early 2000. I think they wanted to make the sport big. And Mark Coleman and Dave, they talk a lot about headbutts together and stuff like that. So I've had a chance to see some of the conversations, and of course, headbutts. It would work. Like I would love to have headbutts back in MMA, like in the old days. I think it would. The ground would change, and the clinch would change. I think it's no different than a big elbow in the face or a big knee in the face. So as far as damage, so I think it's just I think it would be even more realistic, and I think it'd be another element that some guys would to see how far some of the guys would be able to. And I would like to see a John Jones guy, what he would come up with, kind of creatively, that kind of stuff, right? So that's my take on it. Yeah.
That's the same thing. If I remember well, when the MMA started, right, even the 12 to 6 elbows were still allowed, and there was a lot of that. I mean, I remember some of the fights where I was like, "Fuck, is the guy still alive?" Like,
yeah.
So just to finish on headbutts. The last thing is, generally when it comes to headbutt, the worry a little bit is to ending up catching the teeth and cutting your forehead. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen quite a few times actually on the doors where people try to headbutt, and one wanted to headbutt the guy and lifted his head, and the other guy dropped his head, and he ended up busting his own nose, right?
Yeah.
And the other one kind of headbutt him properly, but he's basically caught his teeth, and he was fucking bleeding like fuck. So, generally for me, what I like to do is I like to change the angle slightly to get to the side and now aim for this rather than that center line here, right? Always aiming for the spine, always aiming for the line of the spine, but away from the mouth, right? I mean, that's my take. But I've seen people throwing frontal headbutts to the nose and be quite accurate with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So for me, I've used that like straight on side. The first night I was a bouncer actually headbutted a guy right in the face because I was holding his. They were all they were like American football, like football in UK is like soccer, right? For us, like American football, like the big dudes that run into each other. So it was a team. We had to take out one guy who was being rowdy, and he was part of a university team of football. So all these guys are huge on the roids, and you're holding one of his friends down, and they're all pissed. And I remember headbutting one of them, like, because he was trying to choke me from the back, trying to get him off his buddy. And then as soon as you headbutt, though, I remember Boss Rutan saying this in an interview, like, when you headbutt, people like, oh, whoa, now this guy's not all there. And I remember every time you headbutt, people kind of like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, you see this
guy's headbutting, now it's getting serious. This guy's not normal. So I remember, like, what do you mean? This is nothing. So it was just like a headbutt right on the temple. He backed off, and then he thought I was serious, and then everything. And to me, was just like a punch, right? If I punch somebody, I might punch somebody and he'll break his teeth, and I might cut my hand.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not going to try to do that. But if I get cut on the forehead, but I broke, 4 of your teeth and I broke your jaw, well, that's like I invested $10 and I got $1,000 back. So that's all good for me, right? In a fight, it's about winning. For me, it's just win, baby, win. But of course, I want to try to take the less damage possible. So nose, temple, eye socket is a good target. But you should always try to, whether you're punching or whatever it is, try to get away from the teeth if you can. But fighting's ugly, and things move fast. So anybody who sparred and fought knows that the perfect shot and what you do on video in application will not always be as clean. You have to be ready to be dirty and to be ready for it. Like, goes back to physical and mental preparation and understanding what's going on, right? So same thing for MMA or fighting. You have to know what you're getting into when you go against a guy who's trained and he's very fast and he's strong and he's athletic and he knows what he's doing. It's a completely different game than finding somebody who's untrained but he's on drugs or he's pissed and he might have a weapon. But so to me, it's always if I was able to walk away from the situation, then it's all good.
Of course. Yeah. So generally, it's like in the game plan. So I got a basic self-protection game plan in what I teach, right? Which is awareness. So, habitual awareness, just behavioral awareness, like situational awareness, like environmental awareness. If you can see things before they happen and develop into a threat and you can remove yourself, that's the best form of self-protection, right? So awareness, avoidance, escape. If you can avoid. If you can escape. If you can just run away, get in your car, lock the doors, drive off. End of the story. Awareness, avoidance, escape, de-escalation. If you can talk it down,
of course,
you'll do it. If all of these options have failed, you got to fight back. And
then it's time to break some teeth with your head.
The best way to fight back is to employ a proactive physical dynamic and do something first. Like, I know in a lot of countries, it's like, oh shit, why would you? If you do something first, you're the attacker. But like, wait. If the guy look at you in the eyes and tells you that he's going to fucking cut you and his hand disappears in the background, are you going to wait until he reaches for something?
Yeah.
Or you're just going to hit him from there. This is what you're going to do, isn't it? So I think all this, really, really important. So I'm just thinking here. Do you know what I was going to say? I've been hanging around on those JKD forums recently, right? Especially Like, fuck, yeah, I'm not going to get into the politics because that's not my
Yeah.
thing, right?
No,
That's
me
why
neither.
that's why I left JKD behind, because I'm like, fuck, I can't be fucked with all this negativity, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are basically, saying that, oh, about the sport aspect, like, we're not sparring because sparring is for the sport. We're fighting, right? And I
Yeah.
just watched a video. I just watched a video like just before when you rang the first time, and I was looking at it, and the guy was basically trying to say, right, we don't spar, we fight. And then he was demoing a few bits, but all what he was demoing was, okay, he's doing something, and I'm applying a skill set. So you're basically just showing a skill set, right?
Yeah.
But it's like for people to think that biting, gouging, and grabbing bollocks is going to be sufficient to end the fight. And to these people, I want to say, if you think that if you're fighting against a grappler, I'm not even talking about a good grappler. I'm talking about, let's say, a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
And all you have, you don't know how to grapple, right? All you rely on is trying to get your finger in his eyes, or trying to grab his balls, or trying to bite him somehow and to win the fight like this.
Yeah.
You got a big surprise like coming for you, man. Because once you try to bite the guy or put your finger in his eyes, you just told him that you're fighting dirty. And what these people don't seem to understand is that a grappler can also put his fingers in your eyes.
Exactly.
So
100%.
yeah, but only he's going to do it from a more dominant position, because he's a wrestler. And he's going to put you in a position where you can't get out, and he's going to bite your face off, or he's going to put his finger right up in your eye socket, and there's fuck all you can do about it. So
For sure.
a lot of people, that seem to think that because they train for the street, that they got the edge on trained fighters, trained wrestlers, and striker. And I'm saying, like, it's like this is illusion. This is just like a big illusion from people. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's why I say do both. If you want to be complete, go and spend some time on the ring, in the octagon, and go and fight some really tough opponents and learn and lose. Maybe lose a few times and start winning a little bit and lose again and win again, and just build yourself like this, right? That will humble you. But I mean, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people, right? That will humble people to a point where they're going to be getting rid of this sort of mentality of, we train for the street, we don't train for the sport. You need both.
Yeah.
You need both to be complete. So what
100%.
you've heard conversations like this as well, right? Like the Krav Maga people, and now you got the JKD people that are basically dissing, trash talking MMA and Muay Thai, because they think that what they have is the ultimate form of fighting.
No.
And the thing is, I'll say it publicly. Like, the training that I did in MMA or in Thai boxing has been some of the hardest training I ever done in the martial arts, right? And
For sure.
no amount of JKD, and I've trained with some of the best JKD people around, right? And it was, don't get me wrong, it was very good training, high quality training. But in terms of physical conditioning, mental conditioning, nothing was harder than my Muay Thai or MMA training, right?
For sure.
And because from day one, you got force on force training. From day one, if your hands are low, you get punched, you get cracked, you get knocked out, you get thrown, you get choked, like, people don't want to understand that. And that's why I said to you, my goal, my objective is to take what works from the combat sports and, put it all in a comprehensible way, in a nice, neat little package that can, like a toolbox that can be used in the street, right?
Yeah.
So here comes to my next question now. If you had to use Lethway for the street, what would you do? What would be your favorite move? What would be your favorite combo? How would you go and think about it?
Same thing I would for the MMA and the rest. To add on to your points, which I agree with you 100% on all that stuff. Let's say we get a guy quickly. Okay, we're going to do the eye gouge, which we both like. Well, if you're a guy from certain combative styles where they don't spar, they don't do any physical conditioning, and I do. So if I'm trying to eye gouge you, but I move extremely fast and precision, and you're slow and you've never done it, who's going to do it to who, right?
Yeah.
I'll evade yours, and you won't evade mine, right? If the combat sports, there's nothing that can make you tougher, stronger, get used to violence, right? Getting hit and not flinching, not overreacting, wrestling, fighting. So in Leadway, for me, for self-defense, trying to finish a situation as fast as I can, ferocious bare knuckle punches, like very aggressively, where if you don't have a good defense, if you've never been hit, if you're not used to covering and dodging and having footwork, and you just think, you're going to hit me a Meridian 4 and I'm going to fall down while I'm freaking coming at you with full power, like I'm trying to kill you, like the thousands of rounds I've done with Dave Leduc, who's a champion, Marc-Andre Barrios fighting UFC, all my pro fighters, all the stuff I've done since I'm 30 years with my brother-in-laws, who are all outstanding martial artists. There's no way you're going to pull out that stuff where you get somebody that aggression, where I'm going to come in full blast, no hesitation, like we talked about. I'm going to hit you in the forearms, in the hands, and I'm going to really come in extremely aggressive, get into a position of contact, and then like big headbutts, elbows, knees in the face, slams, just that aggression where if you would use the top techniques or principles of Leadway, which would be aggression, very strong, powerful strikes, headbutts in the clinch, slams, and then you need a bit of that finish him off, put him on knee on belly, full mount, and jet again, elbows, punches, and headbutts. And, that conditioning also, where you're used to getting hit and you're just going to keep walking forward, and just that mentality, I think, would be very hard to beat for the average person who's not training to fight, right? You've trained with fighters, I've trained fighters, I've fought, like I've got 2 professional fights. When we have new people come in, we all have that, right? Horrible reflexes, horrible instincts. They close their eyes, they turn their head, they duck for no reason. Myself, the biggest thing I find when I spar new people is their balance. Their balance absolutely sucks, right? I just sweep them, I throw them, I don't even have to hurt them, and everybody notices, oh my God, my leg, you have really bad balance. So in a real fight, I sweep you off your feet, you fall down, you're done, right? I've noticed the balance, and then their punching is weak because their balance is weak. For me, in my experience, that's the biggest things I've noticed is people have the new people who come in have very low level of skill. They might be aggressive, they might be physically strong, but there's nothing that can take everybody should spar, everybody should work, everybody should do some body conditioning, everybody should spar, get boxers in, do a little bit of that, go train in judo, get thrown, wrestling. That's very important. And the Leadway, I would take the aggression, the physicality, and when you take the best Leadway fighters, let's say I take some of Dave's best knockouts, Tunton Min's best knockouts, Soling Hu's, and ONE FC right now doing well, that aggression with the flurries of punches, with headbutts, that's something that can be very practical and usable for someone in a street situation to overwhelm an opponent and try to take them out as fast as they can.
I think for a fact that Leadway would do amazingly well in a street fight, right? And I've said this before, that even Muay Thai, because a lot of people that don't live around me ask me, they just follow me and they ask me, Julien, what should I train, right? I can't come and see you, blah, blah, blah. Who should I train with? And I said to them, just go and find a good MMA gym, right? Or go and find a good boxing gym or a good Muay Thai gym, but just learn to strike and learn to wrestle. And, it is going to serve you in a street fight, regardless.
For sure.
Right? Even if you can't, even if you're used to strike with gloves, you can always use the elbows, the knees. All this shit is going to be very, very efficient in a street fight. So, when people ask, what's the best martial arts for the street? It's a difficult question to answer, right? I think that every martial art got something to offer, but I think that some of them have got much more to offer regarding pragmatism and efficiency. And I think that Leadway is one of the top martial arts that I would actually put forward to learn how to fight, not even in the ring, but in a real fight. I think that's what would work if you're conditioned. So really, really cool stuff, man. When it comes to eye jabs, right? Is that stuff that you got that from JKD, or
Yeah. The BUG is like one of the finger jab. Right, originally comes from Wing Chun, which again, I'm not a big advocate of that, but that's one good move from there. The couple of the low kicks, modified stuff. Not all of it, but that part of it I think is very effective. Thumb gouge, raking the eyes, all that stuff. Like if you're in the clinch, a jab works really well, right? A boxing jab is fast. Well, the fingers out, I get 6-7 inches a week depending on your hand. It'll penetrate the guard. How many times, like we talked about before, if you get hit in the eyes, like I've seen some of my fighters get hit in the eye with the fingers by accident, right? Not with full intent, with full penetration 4 or 5 times, and the matches have to stop, right? It hurts like hell. Like the eyes, I make a joke in class, right? You have some people, I said, the groin in the Sifu or the eyes. Well, I said, you've had the, little particle of dust, or you have a little something on your groin you don't know. You have a little particle of dust in your eye, it burns the hell out of you. So I would say, the eye is very sensitive. So I think for self-defense, it's a go-to. Like you have to have that, especially if we're talking about, different kind of people. You're like a big guy. I've been training all my life. I'm strong. I know I can knock somebody out with a hook. But some people will take a long time before they generate the power in a cross, a hook, a roundhouse kick to actually hurt somebody. So you have to be able to have those eye jabs, finger jabs, certain techniques that'll work if you're a smaller frame person. You don't train 6 times a week. So I think those things for self-defense for the average person, they have to learn and they have to drill that for sure. And it's a great way also to get a reaction, right? Even if you attack the eyes, people protect their eyes, and if you don't hit them. But that can open up, the side kick to the knee, your double leg, or your whatever headbutt in the face, everything. So I think the eyes are a great target, and you have to train to build up. And if you train your fingers and your hands bare knuckle, your fingers are going to be strong like hell too. So it's just going to maximize the efficiency of that tool.
I like that. I like the idea of using an eye jab as an entry, generally like a preemptive shot, right? And do you know the principle of just jabbing and then big right hand money shot going to take him out? I'm thinking, if you're just here talking to the person, I don't want no problem, and just go finger jab and bang, big right hand.
For sure.
Treat it as you want to. But instead of throwing the jab cross, you're throwing finger jab and cross.
Absolutely. That's a combination we have in our system. And I think every self-defense system should have something like that, right? A blinder and then the boom, here's the real one. So
I already got some ideas in my head now. Do you know what I mean? Either single eye jab with the left and cross hook, uppercut, and headbutt and elbow. And it just flows really nicely together, mate. I think it's good stuff. Not everybody trains the eye jab. And when you have a look at it, have a look at all the Wing Chun guys out there, and even 90% of the JKD guys out there, they just show you slowly eye jab, but you never see them throwing an eye jab full speed, right?
Yeah.
There's only a few people that do that. I've seen you do that, rapid eye blitz and single eye jabs and stuff. The person that taught me how to throw eye jab, which is probably the best guy out there to learn that stuff from, is Tommy Carruthers, right? His eye jabs are just like snake-like speed. Like you just don't, you almost don't see it. If you blink, you will not see it, right? And I think that's a really, really good move to know, and as a use as a entry movement to follow up with something else.
Yeah, for sure.
That is brilliant.
We used to practice with those safety goggles. Yeah. We had the safety goggles on. We had motorcycle helmets with a plastic visor, a softer visor. So we had to use the finger jabs and then like a blast or a elbow. So we did that for years and years when I was a teenager in early 20s with my Sifu. Everything with the finger jabs, Chisa with the goggles, everything had goggles.
Yeah,
and that's the headgear and the motorcycle helmets and all that stuff. So you have to make impact. You have to hit. You have to strain your fingers. You miss the eye. You stab him in the forehead. He has to get cut. You hit him in the cheek. He has to get cut. You're not going to break your fingers. I have to hurt you, whatever. But if you have little fingers and you're just doing it, that's not going to work, right? So it's
So that
Everything has to be done with intent.
it's true. It's true. Do you know, a lot of people are scared to throw eye jabs because they don't want to break their fingers, right?
Oh, for sure.
And generally, what I say to that is that the structure that they use to throw the eye jab is wrong, because they go straight like this, and this might happen, and this is where you get injuries, right? But instead of having that, having more of a that sort of structure, where now, you know, if anything
Exactly.
happens, you got that. So
Yeah.
you got room, right? And trying to throw eye jabs on hard surfaces like a wall, like a solid
Yeah.
wall, and just touch it, stunk, stunk, and you should hear the noise. When you hit goggles, when you do an eye jab properly, you really hear it like stunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really getting on that pair of goggles. And that's really what it is. That's why a lot of people don't want to throw them, because they're not confident. They think that
Yeah.
they're gonna hurt themselves. So yeah, no, eye jabs are amazing. And then you got the rapid eye blitz, which I've seen you do, right? Which is basically left, right, you know,
Yeah.
straight away, like punches.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is brilliant as well. What is your take? What is your take on learning to fight orthodox and southpaw? Do you train your student to? Because I like to train both sides, right?
Yeah.
Because it makes you twice the operator, twice as
For
dangerous,
sure.
right? You can fight left and right. What's your take?
I think you should train both for sure. I like the same idea as in the Filipino martial arts. There's like right, left. So you just become ambidextrous. I believe that's
Yeah,
the more advantage. For me, I've had to do both because when I spar my students to prepare them for fight camps, some of their opponents are orthodox, so I had to stand orthodox
yeah,
to spar my student for 8 weeks to get them ready, and then the other guys southpaw. So then I had to go back to my original style that I learned when I was a kid, which was my power side forward. I
yeah,
think with the smaller the gloves or no gloves, I think being southpaw is an advantage because my lead hand is more accurate, more powerful. Same thing for my kick. My balance is better as well to wrestle. But absolutely, for me, one of the things I like about being ambidextrous is, let's say I throw a 1-2 and a high kick and he blocks it, and I happen to fall into my wrong stance. If I'm able to fight from both stances, I can continue attacking. So instead of a 3 and then after reset, I can go 1-2 high kick, he blocks it, I continue cross up, cross, knee, elbow. So I
yeah.
think you can create longer combinations, overwhelm your opponent, and just be ready for everything. And I think it's just great for your nervous system as well. For combatives, like in the street, like for what you do, Julien, let's say I'm standing here at the bus, and then the guy's on my right side, and this is my good side, this is my good hand. What
Yeah,
about if he's here? You have to punch him with your left. So
yeah.
I prefer a really, really good side and a really good side. So I tell my students, what's your good side? I have a really fucking good side and a
Yeah.
very good
Very
side.
good.
So you got to have that, right? You don't have some people, you take away their good side, it's
And they're
absolutely
fucked. Yeah,
worthless. Absolutely worthless, especially people who don't train. You
yeah,
trap their right arm, you cover their right side. The left hand is
yeah,
this is
yeah.
horrible. So yeah, for me, I train my fighters on both sides, and I do a lot of drills where you go 1, 2, 3 high kick. That one popped out of my head because that's the first one I show. Jab, cross, high kick. The guy blocks it. You fall in the other stance. Cross, hook, high kick. So just to flow and be able to have that continuity. And for self-defense, you never know where the guy's going to stand. You have to be able to kick behind you, beside you, at a 45. It's not always in front of you.
So that leads me to my next question there. Do you also teach your student to deal with multiple opponents, multiple
Oh yeah, for sure.
assailants?
Yeah,
Good.
this
That's
is
good.
this one with my Sifu used to do. We used to call them special classes, like for people who wanted to do a bit more than the traditional martial arts or
Yeah,
a little bit more hardcore. And we would do like 2 against 1, 3 against 2, with the face masks, the
yeah,
chest guards, and we had to go from one line, and then he would draw another line with tape, like 30 feet away, and you had to. That's the safe zone, and then you would have 3 against 2, 3 against 1, 2 against 1. Holy moly! You
yeah,
learn fast that you have to be very footwork, hit
yeah,
hard. Uh,
yeah.
Everything has to be fast. You can't stop. You can't. And then sometimes he would throw a padded stick in there, and he wouldn't tell you. Then the guy would. So we had all this stuff, and that's when you notice that fighting is very unpredictable, very hard,
Yeah.
and beating 3 people up is who are trained is not easy. Untrained is not easy either. And it's that was a totally different ball game. But that's eye opener where you find out that
100%.
footwork, hitting very hard is going to give you an advantage, right? Because you take people out faster. Zigzagging, using people as shields, not messing around at all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we used to do this, but it's I found when we used to do this, there was a lot of people getting hurt, getting hit from behind,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. Not everyone is willing to train at that level of intensity. But when it comes to multiple assailants, right? Generally, we go about mindset, mobility, and preemption.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just kind of control the space, make them form a line, and just hit one, try and drop one as fast as possible, and get the numbers down as fast as possible. The longer you're there, the more dangerous it's going to be.
For sure.
And like you said, you can use people as a shield, as a battering, or as a projectile. Like there's a lot of good techniques out there, but it's great if you teach your student multiple assailants, because I think that anyone like yourself that wants to be reality based as much as possible, right, and really go from a street perspective, should be training for multiple assailants. And my next question is weapons. Obviously, do you go obviously and teach like counter blade tactics and things like that?
We do a lot of since again, like for a long time, say mid 80s, like all the Filipino weapons, like stick fighting, knives, stuff like that. Here in Canada, guns is not a big thing. The laws here, like it's very hard to get a weapon, and most people have more hunting weapons, like, a hunting rifle and stuff like that. So I would say compared to all the people I know in the States who have, they have like gun ranges, and they have that pit in the backyard with the 2x4 on top of it. Like if the apocalypse comes, they have more weapons than the army. Here in Canada, you don't have a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of stuff with the knives, the sticks. We do baseball bat scenarios.
Nice.
And we talk about the weapons. Of course, for me, I find that the footwork is something that you develop so much. Hand-eye coordination, distancing, targeting as well, right? You don't mess around, with the knife. It's, you're cut here, you're stabbed here, it's done. And then to be very alert. So we teach a lot of the Filipino style weapons, but in a very dynamic way as well. I've been doing this for over 30 years, where my brother-in-law Martin is the guy who takes a lot of the stuff with the weapons in our system. He's awesome at it. So he's got a lot of drills and stuff where a lot of skill development I believe for myself with the weapons, as far as being ambidextrous, using your left and your right, your footwork, your distance control, understanding how fast and how dynamic that can be for reflexes and flow. So I think there's a lot to learn from weapons, and knife fighting, of course, for your grappling and your awareness. And it's just another thing to complement your martial arts skills for sure.
I agree with you 100%. Like, it's like, any weapon is an extension of your body, and, it kind of teaches you, realize that the body mechanics when you use a blade or when you use a stick or something are pretty much the same as the body mechanics that you use for empty hand. And so, for example, I was having this conversation. Actually, I posted a video, I think, this morning, where I'm actually demoing some different combative principles with the blade. And one of them is, I said to you, I have a lot of friends that are high-level strikers, but they don't do weapons. They just like their sports, and they're really fucking good at it. But, they look at what I do with the blade, and they're like, Julien, you should teach me some of that. And I said, bro, you're already one of the deadliest knife fighter I know. And they just scratch their heads. So what do you mean? I say, just grab two blades and do exactly what you do. Just jab, cross, hook, and all of a sudden, add your head movement, your level change, you change lanes, change level, strike high, low, middle, and all of a sudden, with your footwork, your evasive movements, bobbing and weaving and slipping, and all of a sudden, you became one of the most dangerous knife fighter I know. And they're like, fuck, I didn't think about that. Do you know what I mean? It's like thinking outside the box. You can give two blades to a boxer, and all of a sudden that guy becomes really, really dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. Like I always think in my head, like with karambits, you wrap them around your thumb.
Yeah, box
with everything. You got two big blades popping out of your knuckles. So it'd be like giving a MMA guy or a boxer guy, or having guys fight lightweight with brass knuckles. Like you don't have to train for that. You just do exactly what you've been doing, but now we just added something that goes damage times 15, right?
A force multiplier. Yeah, it's exactly. Like, mate, if I was the Wolverine, imagine if you had like big things like that, like the damage that you could cause, right?
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
let's. I'm sure you got bits to do, right? So let's slowly wrap it up.
Right.
One other thing I'm gonna ask you is, what about fight IQ? Right? Let's
Mhm.
speak about fight IQ. How do you develop fight IQ? Is there any ways to train your student that will accelerate this learning? How to develop fight IQ? How to be able to slow down what's happening in front of you and keep your cool, right? And really
Yeah.
observe what, and kind of slow time. You know that yourself, right? If when you
Mhm.
get to a level where the time kind of almost slows down and you can observe what the guy's doing, and you start treat it like a chess play and go, right, okay, he's trying to do this, right, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to set that pattern, I'm going to do this twice, so he buys it the
Yeah.
third time, I'm going to change my do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? How do you develop that fight IQ? And is there a way to teach your student to accelerate this
Mhm.
learning fight IQ?
First thing I think again is awareness. Telling your students like when I'm coaching them, or I still spar with all my top guys, and sometimes when I do that, that was wrong. You bid on that. Don't do that. Yeah. Did you see I boxed you in? You tried to go there. You were stuck. You were stuck here. You did the wrong decision, right? You went left when you should have gone right. All these things. One, to be aware. Two, being told, right? A lot of people, nobody ever tells them like this was the wrong tactic, this was the wrong approach, this would
Yeah.
have been better, more efficient, less dangerous. um I think an example, one of my fighters, he dropped his opponent in an MMA match a month ago, and he dove into the guard, right? It's his third pro fight. And then after he was happy, he did great. Then the first thing he went home, then the next private class. What if you would have passed the guard? You would have finished him in the first round. Now you did 3 rounds, full blast. You took a chance. You took damage. That 1 second of, instead of diving into the guard, grab the ankles, pass, knee on belly, finish him off. So putting it on video, telling him, showing him, I think he's going to learn from that, and he's going to have a better fight IQ now.
Yeah.
Drilling, you have to drill. Like an example, like sometimes when we spar, you spar kickboxing or let weigh, anything, boxing. When you knock your opponent down, you don't jump on him to finish him off, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. But then we do drills in class where we're sparring, and then I tell my students, hey, once in a while, I want you to fall down like you dropped him, and I want your partner to not go, what the heck happened? I dropped him. I want you to jump on him, finish him off, pass the guard, take his back, smash him. And for self-defense, we do the same thing where, blasting pads, and then one partner has to fall down, and you have to follow them, not to be surprised where,
Yeah.
what just happened? Yeah, you just knocked somebody down. Don't let them up. So all these drills, awareness drills, where you're training your mind to do the right tactics and the right approach.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be full contact all the time, but with aliveness, something that's done, pads, no pads, and then all these things will train the students to react properly with the most efficient way possible, right? Because you can win and make it very hard on yourself, or you could be, take the easiest way, the easiest path, and all these things, to be aware how to control the ring, control a cage. In the street fight, I did this morning with in a private, and we were talking about, this guy's 65 years old. He's been training with me for a long time. He likes to do fitness and self-defense. And we're talking being stuck against the cage. And I said, well, you're stuck against a car. You're stuck against a table. You're stuck against
Yeah.
a wall. I said, don't be straight. Be at an angle. Get an overhook. Push him away. Turn him around. And he was like, oh, I never thought about those things. So
Use the wall as your ally. Yeah.
exactly. So I'm like, you have to this can be your best friend or your worst enemy, being stuck against a wall. So I was showing him like different tactics, and just being drilling and doing some stuff, playing around. We ended up where his fight IQ and his awareness got bumped up, where he didn't know, because maybe he had never thought of that kind of stuff. But I said,
Yeah.
it's not always going to be a cage or ropes, right? Walls, cars, tables,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So we talked about all that stuff this morning, and it ended up being a nice session where we spontaneously worked on that from a question, right?
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. You see, you also mentioned there's a lot of people. Are you familiar with Liam Harrison?
Yes, he is Muay Thai fighter from Win FC.
Yeah, from Leeds, Badco, his gym. Very, very hardcore fighter. Very explosive
Yes.
on the pads. I love watching him. Right. When you go to his gym, it's always hard sparring. And so it's one thing that they're known for, right? If you go to train over there, you better be ready, be sparring, right?
Okay.
And it's just one approach, right? But what I'm thinking now, I learn much better with play spar, right? And it depends. Sometimes it's good. Pardon me. Sometimes it's good to hard spar, and sometimes it's good to play spar. What's your take on this? Do you think that there is a bit of a progressive methodology when it comes to sparring? Do you start slowly and then eventually at some point just go for it, or?
We do progressively. So you start with a lot of equipment, make yourself comfortable mentally, physically, if to be ready for that, right? There's a lot of stuff coming in, especially if you're new. So we do contact, then more contact, then add a little bit to it, longer rounds, take a bit of equipment off, take the chest pad off, stuff like that. For the fighters, for MMA, I think once a week, we do once a week on Saturdays is the harder sparring. We put the headgears, everybody's aware of it too. I think it's important to communicate. Let's say me and you, we spar and you're thinking, okay, we're going to play. And in me in my head, I'm going 100%. Well, it's not going to be fun for you, and it's not fair either. It's like we're doing a race, but I'm the only one who told you we're racing, right? So so if it's ahead of time, I always say, okay, Saturday, guys, big shin pads, big gloves, big headgear, and we're going for more realistic, go hard to the body, might get dropped with a body shot, control the head so you don't have concussions, but harder sparring. MMA fighters, I think if you spar hard 5-6 times a week, you're looking for injuries. You're going to hurt your wrist, your knee, your ribs. So once a week, we do hard sparring, hard rolling. The rest of the week, we do more like they do in Asia, right? They do a lot of very fast technical sparring, which is very, very fluid about reflexes. But I think you need both. I like the once a week sparring, which is the way I was taught. We used to do once every 2 weeks or once a month, like a very hardcore, almost simulating a real fight. And the rest of the time was all drilling and fast and still sparring in contact, but not in a setting where you're afraid of, I'm going to get my nose smashed or I'm going to get broken. So I think you need a combination of both. And for the average person, you do have to bring them up slowly, or else they'll just quit, and then you never get to develop them as martial artists.
Yeah. Okay. How are you for time? Do you need to go? So you need to go soon?
We got some more, maybe another 5 minutes if you want.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Just we'll go to some of the question that I ask at the end, right? Which is more more personal. Have you ever had anything in your life, any event in your life that happened that really was like a big catalyst, or maybe like a spiritual awakening, or something that really made you change on the most fundamental level as a person, and that from one day to the next you just kind of had a big realization and seen life in a different light?
I'm going to say when my first daughter was born.
Yeah, that's a lot of men say that when the
For me, it was like stepping out from myself, right, where everything is just me, and then after it was me and my wife. Then when I had my daughter, like when she was literally being born, right, I was like, holy moly. Now to me, as a protector, a dad, a business owner, it just amplified everything that I stood for. I wanted to be even better in everything. I wanted to be more successful. I want to be, like I said, I train, and I also want to be there when she has grandkids. I want to be, even if I'm 65, I want to be able to protect my family and not say, oh, I used to be able to whoop you. No, I will. I will. I'll give you a run for your money, buddy. So that kind of stuff. So it just made me amplify everything that I stood for to a higher level. And then my second daughter, and just having a family made me just want to be a better person. And being a martial artist at the core just amplified everything I do about martial arts and teaching and coaching.
Nice. Okay. Last two questions.
Go.
If you could do something to change the world, anything at all, what would it be?
Everybody would have to do martial arts at a good school or good gym for at least 2 years. I think that would help them with character, health decision, taking care of their health, humility, humbleness, respect. And I think we would get along a lot better. And I think that would be important. Everybody would do martial arts for at least 2 years, like at 18 or to 20 years old. You would have to do that to form you as an adult. I think that would be a good thing. I would implement that into society.
Nice. Okay, and final question. what message do you have for the newer generations, right? So if you had a group right now in front of you of, I don't know, if you had like 1 million children, maybe age 10, 11, 12, what would be your message to them?
I would tell them in today's world with all this stuff, like, see, you're in the UK, I'm in Canada, we're talking to each other. This is an exciting time where this almost like, it's true that nothing can hold you back, right? I used to remember when I was a kid, like 11 years old, going to Thailand was going like to the moon, right?
Yeah,
Going
yeah,
to
yeah,
Myanmar and fight was like, what? You know, that's in the movies. You know,
yeah,
cage fights. That was all the movies in the 80s. You know, you go underground. Now you can do that, right? You can be a pro fighter as a career. You can do podcasts. You can literally do anything you put your mind to.
yeah,
And I would tell them not to waste it by being, you know, I don't like, you know, low level TikToker. You know, I open press. Like, to me, I think, dude, there's so much stuff you can do that it would be good. There's so much stuff you can do. Use the social media platforms in a proper way,
yeah,
in a way for good information, not to bash each other and put each other down and to have all this stupid content. So I would try to inspire kids to tell them that they can be great and to
yeah,
use all these technological tools and all the information they get, all the coaches they can have, everything they can do. The sky's the limit if they're willing to work. And I find today is a lot of people, they're not willing to work, right? They're not willing to train hard. They're not willing to put
yeah,
in time. They want everything fast, or they want recognition really quickly. So for me, I think that's the message I would tell them, to use all this great stuff we have, like in, you know, 2024 and in the future, but do something great with it, you know, and
yeah.
to help others and to build value.
Yeah, that's cool. Use the technology, make the most out of it to become the best version of yourself. Good.
Yep.
Okay, let's wrap it up. What we can wrap it up with is, if you have a website, if you're selling any merchandise or anything, if you got anything, just throw it on there. That's what it's there for as well, bro.
For me, like, if somebody wants to get in contact with me, they can contact me on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to answer, you know, questions, or somebody wants to ask me about, you know, if they're coming down to Gatineau, Canada, to come and see me at my school, no problem. If you want to, you know, I give them a chat, you know, follow some of the fighters from the Patton Old Martial Arts School, no Dave Leduc, Marc-Andre Barrio in the UFC, a lot of my up and coming guys. And make sure you check your podcast, Julien. It's interesting, it's cool. And just, you know, let's keep sharing and participating and having this kind of energy where everybody gets along, and we don't I think there's too much too much yapping and too much bad vibe on social media, where I prefer, like, you know, progressive stuff. And so if you're in that kind of guy, if you're that kind of person, you know, hit me up, send me anything on Facebook or on my Instagram, Sifu Pat. I'm easy to find. And if you're ever in the Gatineau area, come and see me at my dojo. I'll be glad to help you out.
Awesome stuff. Awesome. Right, folks. Well, that's it. It was amazing. Little interview. Might do that again in the future if you want.
Anytime, Julien. Anytime.
If you guys want to watch this again, you want to share it, okay, it's been broadcasted on my Facebook, but it's also on my YouTube channel, which is Adrenaline Combatives. You will find it in the live section, right? So just find it there, share it, spread the love, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to say, take care, guys.